Good evening, everyone, and welcome to We're Speaking, the Lincoln Project's newest show. I'm Lisa Senecal.
And I'm Maya May. Wow. So we made it through the inauguration. Yes, women, we fought so hard to protect our democracy. We organized, we got out the vote, we debated with our friends and family, and with strangers, sometimes with strangers. And in watching all the footage of all the news going by, I realized the reality is we came so close to another 4 years of chaos. And chaos that many people wouldn't have survived. So we can't afford to look away. That's why we're here. This is where the real work begins.
Yep. And look, I know everyone's exhausted. We're exhausted. And we have to pace ourselves and really take care of ourselves. But that does not mean that we can take a seat and get comfortable between presidential elections, especially white women. Most of the rights and power that women have, they weren't given to us. We fought like hell for them. And that's what it's going to take to keep moving things forward.
Yeah, it's going to take that. It's going to take allies, which is why today we are talking about healthy manhood and a women's right to safety, security, and respect in all spaces.
Yeah, I'm so excited about our guest tonight. We have Ted Bunch from A Call to Men, which is an organization that does work to promote healthy manhood with boys and men. So Ted's going to be joining us shortly.
And we are also talking to veteran Lucy Del Gaudio. She has been working actively this year to spread awareness about sexual assault in the military. So really excited to talk with her lately.
Yeah, they're both going to be amazing guests. We are really fortunate that they're both going to be here with us tonight. So Maya, week one of the Biden-Harris administration is in the books. And honestly, it has felt like a week-long detox to me.
Oh
And there's a
yeah. Oh
lot of
yeah.
detoxing to be done.
Yeah, I'm gonna need more than a week, like it was like I felt like I could finally sleep better. I don't know about everybody else, but it was like, oh, this is what it's like having energy again, not waking up with dread.
Uh-huh.
And so I feel like yes, it's important, like you said, to restore, but not the Biden administration. They're coming out of the gate hot, like already signing so many executive orders, one to promote racial equity, which is huge, undoing a lot of the wrongs that we have seen. And it's basically saying, hey, we need to look at everything, all of our policies through an equity lens. And that's important because diversity matters. Bringing diverse perspectives to the table matters. It improves problem solving, and it is really a great step towards having a more equitable America.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of the Biden administration coming out hot, right before the show tonight, I saw a tweet from one of Biden's granddaughters, and she was saying, like, I don't know how my grandfather did it. I just woke up from sleeping for a week after the campaign, and he immediately went to work after the inauguration. So the man has some energy that I don't understand even at my age. It's pretty impressive. And they have been taking a lot of really important action. And fortunately, it's been like the polar opposite of what Trump did when he took office, like the Muslim ban, prohibiting diversity training and discussions of racial equity in federal agencies, which was just Looney Tunes that
Insane.
he did
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I mean, that this was somehow anti-American and racist to be talking about diversity. Um, so some of the damage is getting undone, but we have
Mhm.
a hell of a long way to go still. And we had evidence
Long
of
way.
that this week when,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
we had evidence this week when, everyone's favorite pro-sedition attorney, Jenna Ellis, decided that she would weigh in on gender politics. And apparently, according to Jenna, the problem with non-right wing women isn't that we're not hot; it's that we want to be men, which I personally wasn't aware of. I don't know if you knew about this, that collectively anyone who isn't a right winger and is female actually wants to be a guy, but um, that's Jenna's opinion, and she's just the Phyllis Schlafly of traffic court. This ridiculous idea that women will become men if we're allowed to have rights. Like, oh my God, if they use their brains and we let them make decisions for themselves, they'll start thinking that they're men because only men are supposed to be allowed to do that. And that that was the thinking for a really long time. The kind of stuff that Jenna had in that tweet, that's exactly the way women were treated. We couldn't open bank accounts or get credit cards without our husband's permission. We could be sexually harassed in the workplace or assaulted by our husbands at home because, God forbid, we think we're men and those things shouldn't happen to us. It even used to be the case, this was a new one for me, that if a woman married someone of another nationality, she could be stripped of her citizenship.
What? That I didn't know. I'm just finding that out right now. Okay.
I just learned that one today. It's like, my God, there's so much. So the main thing that I am shocked that women like Jenna don't realize is that what they're saying, if they go back far enough in history, they're the women who wouldn't have thought that we should get the right to vote. And thank God we did.
Like, oh, our brains are too tiny. We can't handle it. We can't make decisions. Right. Like, it's ridiculous.
Don't trouble your little selves with those difficult decisions, like who should run the country. Just, stay home and we'll take care of everything. Men have been trying to take care of everything for a really long time. I don't know if anybody else thinks that things are thoroughly fucked up right now, but I'm not sure that, they've done a bang up job so far. So, on behalf of Women America, you are welcome that so many of us got out and voted in 2020. And it feels like we're starting to make some progress. Like maybe we have more normal men in the Biden administration than we did when Trump was in the White House.
Yeah, slightly healthier, just a little bit. A little less cringy.
Just his bizarre, desperate need to dominate and control and exclude people who he saw as other. To me, that's every guy I've ever known who you want to run screaming from, because it's such a tell about how incredibly insecure they are, that they feel that need to dominate and control everything around them. And Biden's like the opposite. He's like confident and welcomes diversity and doesn't just welcome it, he insists on it. And he made a great statement when he was swearing in a bunch of new folks who were joining his administration. I think we have that.
I promise you I will fire you on the spot. On the spot. No ifs, ands, or buts. Everybody is entitled to be treated with decency and dignity. That's been missing in a big way the last 4 years.
That's great. That's great. And you'll love to hear it. Yeah. It's so weird. Yeah, it's like when you see that and it's like, of course. And that's the way we want our children to grow up, in a world where bullies are not championed, where we're trying to create a space where everybody's thoughts and opinions are valued, and then there's conflict. It's healthy conflict, and they know how to work through it. So I applaud this. I am ecstatic that this is what we've seen coming out the gate in just 1 week. So kudos to that. We'd love to hear your voices. We're going to be talking a lot about that today, about how you found your voice. And so we would love to hear from you. Tell us about a time when you chose to speak up, to do what was right over what was easy. But you know what? We also want to know about what holds you back from speaking up, because only when we get that stuff out into the open can we eradicate it. So we want to know what's holding back your voices. You can give us a ring at 646-374-8339 and leave us your thoughts. But even better, you can talk to us live on the show. So please hop on Zoom. We're all on Zoom these days. Might as well be on Zoom, making your voices heard. Our meeting ID's right there. It's 867-0447-2722.
We are all on Zoom these days. I think our lives have been consumed with Zoom calls. I know mine has, and
Consumed with
they're a
Zoom.
wonderful thing to have, but yeah, they're brutal. Um, so we have our first guest coming up. I want to make sure we have our first guest with us. Ted Bunch is the co-founder of A Call to Men. It's an organization dedicated to promoting healthy manhood. He and A Call to Men have worked with NFL and NBA teams, boys and young men in middle school, high school, colleges across the country, and with folks in the military. He's also the co-author of a really wonderful new book. It's called The Book of Dares, 100 Ways for Boys to be Kind, Bold, and Brave. So I want to welcome Ted Bunch to the show. I'm so excited you're here, Ted. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you, Maya. It's so good to be here. You all went in. What an intro.
We have a lot to say.
Yeah, we do that. We're speaking. It's hard to shut us up at times.
Give us a platform. We're not going to stop.
You deserve it, and I'm so glad to be here, and thank you for sharing your platform with myself, my co-author, Anna Marie Johnson-Teague, and our organization, A Call to Men.
Oh, thank you.
Of course, yes.
I can't even begin a conversation with you about the work that A Call to Men does without talking about the Man Box. Can you explain what the Man Box is?
Sure. So the Man Box is a construct, of course. It's really based on the collective socialization of men, of manhood, and how we pass those teachings down to our boys, actually. So, and it's based in gender norms and rules that are very rigid. And for instance, some of the characteristics that go into the Man Box, and this is not going to be foreign to any of you in the listening audience, be in charge. Don't ask for help. Don't show any emotion except for anger. Don't be vulnerable. Don't show weakness, right? All of those things, and how we pass those things down to our boys, to the next generation. Also, what's in the Man Box is the teaching that women and girls have less value than men. That on some level, women are the property of men. That's why anywhere in Main Street, USA, even today in 2021, if I was to see a man hitting his wife or girlfriend and I walked over to him and say, hey, knock it off, he would say to me, mind your business, right? So that's our collective socialization. And what's also a big part of our collective socialization is that we're taught, and we pass this down to our boys, that women and girls are objects, especially sexual objects. And one of the things that the Book of Dares does is really interrupts all of those messages that our boys are given from a very young age. By the time they're 10 or 11 years old, they already have their formation of what gender is, what is expected of them. And when they don't live up to those things, being tough, always knowing what to do, they're punished for it.
Yeah. So this is so interesting to so many of us because we've all endured it throughout our entire lives. And so it's like we are all aware of this problem. And I am loving the Book of Dares. I would love for you to talk a little bit more about it because it's clearly part of the solution and starting them at a young age. But how did you come up with it, the idea of having dares?
Well, we interviewed thousands of boys around the country because Anna Marie and I saw that there was really a gap that we wanted to fill, that there wasn't books or any real information that was teaching empathy to boys, authenticity to boys. It just wasn't there. Now, the book is based on 20 years of experience with A Call to Men, with the work of A Call to Men. And our vision is to create a world where all men and boys are loving and respectful, and all women, girls, and those in the margins of the margins are valued and safe. And we work with, as you said, professional athletes, Fortune 500 companies, grassroots communities, and organizations, middle school, high schools. But even with our middle school and high school curriculum, which is called Live Respect, Coaching Healthy and Respectful Manhood, that we wrote with Scholastic, by the way, it's outstanding, focused on gender and racial equity. Even with that, we started at 6th grade. By the time that we see them in 6th grade, they're already very clear on girls are not as valuable as boys, right? They're very clear on what they even have homophobia and heterosexist ideas already at that point, right? So all of those things, the gender-based discrimination, the man box that we teach our boys to live within, we wanted to interrupt that. And dares was really something that we wanted to tap into. When we interviewed these boys, dares were terrifying to them, but fascinating to them as well, right? And so
Yeah.
we really put it on its head. And it's really positive challenges, right? 100 ways for boys to be kind, bold, and brave. And we put these challenges in 3 buckets: healthy masculinity, authenticity, and gender equity and inclusion. So all of the dares are focused in those areas.
I love it because you're leveraging the culture to be able to reach them. It's like reaching them where they're at. Like everybody loves a dare. And so I think that's pretty amazing. But to be honest, as I was reading it, it's not just for boys. And my daughter saw it and she was like, "Ooh, the Book of Dares." Like she was immediately like, "Oh, what's in there? I want to see that." And so there were a ton of
and not
dares and
just for
challenges.
kids. There's
Yeah.
a lot of value in that for adult men to
Yes,
also.
well, this is what we're finding out. You know, we originally wrote it. Anna Marie and I are both parents and also anti-violence educators and work with the organizational Call to Men, of course. But that's what we're finding is that we originally wrote it with 8 to 13-year-old boys in mind. And what we're finding now that the book is out is that boys who are in high school are saying, "Oh, wait, that resonates with me too. I want to do that."
So great.
Fathers who are reading it to their boys are saying, "I never thought of that. Wow, I really need to look at my behavior, how I'm viewing this, how I'm framing this." And also girls and gender nonconforming kids are also finding dares that resonate with them, because there's a third of the dares that are on healthy masculinity or healthy manhood, but then there's authenticity and gender equity and inclusion, like dare to prove a stereotype wrong. That's one of the dares, right? So we're really challenging people's stereotypes. Oh, well, what is a stereotype? So let me prove this one wrong, right? There's all kinds of dares that connect. There's one that's dare to share 3 emotions you expressed that you felt today, so that we can start boys to identify that there is language around emotion, because we teach our boys we say stop crying to our boys almost as soon as they start crying. And when we say stop crying, we're saying stop feeling. They don't know the difference. So the only emotion that they express and they are able to, as we become men, that's safe for us to express is anger. But anger is covering up all this other pain, hurt, disappointment. That's why men live 6 years less than women. Our suicide is 3.5 times higher than women. Male identified youth is higher with their suicide than for female. And then when you look at the queer community of youth, it's even higher, because there's no sense of belonging in this man box culture that they have to try to survive in, because the glue that keeps that man box together is homophobia and heterosexism.
The idea of so much of the anger that we see expressed being a way to cover up a lot of pain that's there is really fascinating. We've had 4 tough years, and one of the really unfortunate phenomenons that we've seen is the emergence, at least to a much greater degree, of groups like incels and the Proud Boys. And I think that has a lot to do with what you were just talking about. You can't name it. There's a lot of hurt in there. What do you think the past 4 years have done, and how do we begin to bring things back?
There's a lot of hurt and pain and fear everywhere from all sides, you know? And with the work of A Call to Man, and even with this book of dares, is that we're really focused on, when we work with men, it's really around not wanting to indict men simply for being men, but invite men to the conversation, invite men to be part of the solution. And even as we do anti-racism work, which is what we do also, we don't want to indict white people simply for being white, but invite white people to be part of the solution, be part of the conversation. So any kind of groups or individuals who emerge from that, because when you push against an oppression, when you push against sexism, or racism, guess what? Sexism and racism rears its ugly head. So it shows up. And when that happens, then we want to be able to educate, and we want to look at the system that allows these groups and these people to exist in the first place. Because it's not about just calling them out. It's really about calling them in. That's really what we want to do. Whether it's men, whether it's white folks into anti-racism work, it's really about calling people in. So I have hope that this is what's going to happen, that there'll be hope and healing for all of us. I have compassion that everyone's going through their own pain. Everyone's going through their own trigger points. I know that as a Black person, my whole life has been triggered, been triggering, and white folks are being triggered in different ways now too. And so we have a place that we can start talking about what's real. And as painful as it is, I'm hoping that crisis reveals the cracks. And now that we see the cracks, we can do something about it.
Yeah, that's such an excellent way to put that too, because this is such a great opportunity to, I call Trump like a boiler. Like he boiled up the water in all of like the icky stuff came to the top, and now it's up to us to like skim it off the top, right? And use it as an opportunity to cleanse. And so you've provided a framework for that. So I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, that's a great metaphor, and there's so much responsibility for white folks to pay attention to what bubbled up, because a lot of it is on our side. So yeah, we've got our work to do. Speaking of which, there's a lot of self-reflection that needs to happen in the work that you do, and there are certainly, you know, that I have two sons. There are certainly things that I look back at, and, you know, it's kind of cringe inducing. And I wish I had not said things that I said or done things that I did. And, you know, now realize that without intending to cause harm, I was reinforcing man box constraints on my own sons, who I deeply love. And I know that you had a situation with your lovely family where you did some introspection and had a real journey of growth when your son Jaden came out as gay. I'm sorry, Jalen came out as gay.
Yes, and Jalen is those are my 6 kids there, and Jalen is the one with the leopard shirt. And
He's always, the two of you are always so well dressed.
That's my man. I love this kid. He has taught me so much about authenticity. I have to tell you, there he is. That's at our first Pride Parade on 14th Street in Manhattan when he had just come out as 15. Jalen is an amazing kid. All of my kids are. And you're absolutely right, Lisa. I've had to learn a lot because my own, now mind you, Jalen's mom and I were expecting that he was going to be gay. We were really prepared. And I say expecting because there was an expectancy. We were so looking forward to it, opposed to suspecting as if there's something wrong. I want to make that clear, right? So, because, you know, when he was young, and I'm not saying that all boys who might do this are gay, but we know our children, you know the children. And where the girls were playing, if he was 2 years old, and the boys were over here, he's just always interested in what the girls are doing. They're just much more fascinating and interesting to him, you know? And it continued like that, where he wasn't so interested in football or basketball. He tried all those things. He loves to sing, dance, and act. And by the way, his major is musical theater, and he's doing really well in college, you know? And so, and so it really allowed us to tap into, to really allow him to unfold who he was to us, opposed to us saying, this is who you're going to be based on all of these social norms and expectations. And to your point, my own, as woke as I thought I was, and as prepared as I thought I was for him to come out, I also had my own socialization, my heterosexist, homophobic socialization played out in different ways. And it caught me by surprise. But it's not only that, I haven't reached the finish line as sexism either. Like my socialization around sexism is still, the difference with me and any man who might be listening is that when there's a sexist situation that I'm facing, I see it and then I say, okay, I need to do something about that, right? Now, privilege allows me to pick and choose where I want to do that in the same way that privilege with race allows white folks to pick and choose where they want to intervene or not, right? So I'm far from cooked, right? I do the best that I can. And one thing's really good is that I'm able to self evaluate and have other men in my life who say, you know what? This is how that looked. This is how this played out. So, and that's it. That's what makes us anti-racist and anti-sexist. It's not that the socialization isn't there. It is. And with Jalen, it was really the same. Once he embraced who he was fully, um, and he lived out loud in a whole different way, there were things that came up for me. I mean, I share in this article on Refiner 29 who covered me doing. I did an article what I've learned since my son came out, that as prepared as I was for him to come out, when he started using nail polish, and I take all my kids to the salon, all my children, right? And and he's saying, I'm gonna get some polish, Dad. And I'm like, okay, well, what color are you gonna get, right? And in my mind, I'm like, please, black, dark purple, right? And he's like, pink. Right? And I thought I was gonna be okay with that, but I was really catching feelings. But that was my issue, not his. I'm like, yes, son, go ahead. And I got to deal with that. You know what I mean? So all I'm saying is that as parents, as any parent that's out there knows, there's no book. We learn. And I think the best thing as a parent for me and as a man is that when I can recognize when I'm off or when I've done something that needs correction and to correct that, right? Because saying to Jalen, no, you can't get that nail polish was not the way to go. But I had some of my own introspection to do. And it's true as a father and just as a man in the United States also, that these things continue to come up and I continue to address them. And it's a wonderful journey. I will say to the men in the audience that there's nothing to be afraid of, whether it's you have a child who doesn't conform to gender or may not fit the binary, or women in the workplace who are getting promoted. Like, there's nothing to be afraid of. Actually, one of the things that the other co-founder of the organization, Tony Porter, he and I co-founded the organization 20 years ago, says at the end of his TED Talk, is that the liberation of men is directly tied to the liberation of when women are free and men are free, right? Because we can live in our full authenticity and really our shared humanity.
I
love
love that
that
you
so
wrote that
much.
piece and shared that story. I think it's so important for people to understand that we're all works in progress, even people
Yes.
like you who have been in the work for a couple of decades, that we're still learning and we're going to continue to learn, and we're never going to get there 100%, but we're willing to just keep at it. And you make mistakes and you own up to them and you try to move forward and not make the same ones twice.
Yeah, I think the key there is the introspection that you speak of, like that moment where you stop and you reflect on what may be programmed behavior. And so hearing your story really resonated with me. My daughter's transgender, actually, and I incredibly progressive, and I had a blind spot because when she started wanting to wear, dresses and nail polish and things when she was about 2 or 3, I was like, boys can wear dresses, like boys can have long hair. And so I kept putting her in that box. And it was only when she finally was like adamant about it at age 6, like, I'm a girl. And I was like, ooh, my bad. Here I am thinking I'm very progressive and I blew it on this one. And so, and it was too, it was like one of those, like, a lot of people think in the Black community, we're not supportive of the queer community. And I absolutely love that you're here and that you're sharing this part of you, because it's so key. And I think when you talk about not having anything to fear, that's just it. It's like, get to know your children, get to know the people that seem different, because that's when what goes from, and I don't want to use the word ignorance because that sounds negative, but when it's something that we don't know, our brains concoct all sorts of ideas about what it's going to lead to, as opposed to just taking that moment to pause and reflect and say, like, hey, this is another human being who wants to live fully and authentically. So I love that. That being said, I know you do all of these trainings, and I'm curious about like the pushback that you get, and like, you know, men saying you're trying to erase us and you're taking away what makes us men. Do you have any tips for us, like how to handle these kind of conversations?
Yeah, and thanks for sharing that, Maya, about the blind spot. That's a good term for it, blind spot. Um, yeah, that we don't need to be afraid, right? That there's really, again, it gets back to the fear because men, putting up those defenses or trying to protect ourselves, right? That you're trying to take away all these things. No, we're actually not. It's just that we can be these things, but we're a whole lot more. And that these limitations, this box that we put ourselves in, right, limits us from doing other things. For example, around authenticity. And I just like to say something about authenticity, but also like some of those things that are in the man box that men take pride in, which I do, being a provider, being a protector. But women provide and protect too. Like that's not a man's trait, right? Even if we look at with men, if I say to men, let's look at the characteristics of strength, define strength, and take out how much somebody can physically move, how much you can bench press, right? Do you know more strong women or strong men? They'll say 9 out of 10 will say strong women, right? But because the lenses we look through are male entitled, male privilege, we lean toward our it's embedded in our socialization, not in our DNA and not in our testosterone. It's embedded in our socialization to give men the benefit of the doubt. So I think that the most important thing that we want to share with men is that there's nothing to be afraid of, and that we're so much more than that, right? And with authenticity, for instance, if I could just share this, I was, for the first 10 years of my marriage or so, I would bring flowers home to my wife every week or every 2 weeks. And she would appreciate it. She'd say thank you. And if her friends or her girlfriends were around, they'd be like, oh, after 10 years, he's still bringing you flowers, and it was kind of like that. But you know what? If I didn't bring flowers home, she didn't say where are the flowers, right? So it occurred to me, you know, when I don't bring flowers home, I miss flowers. I
That
right. So
you
right.
were buying
So
them for
so
yourself.
but I'm doing it for the first. It didn't occur to me till 10 years later. I'm bringing flowers home for me. So
Men
I
can like
like the way
flowers
they
too.
smell. I like the way they smell when they come in the house. I like the colors. Now, once I embrace my full authentic self, right? Because the man box said you're not supposed to like flowers. What does that mean if I like flowers? That's what women do. That's a feminine thing. So therefore, it goes against this man box, this collective socialization. So once I started embracing that, when I go to the florist now, it's like, no, 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 no. I don't want those. Give me these, and these. And no, no, you want them in a vase? No, I don't want them in a vase. I'll arrange them when I get home. You know why, Lisa and Maya? Because I like flowers.
Love
So,
it. Own it. Own it.
right.
Yes.
So every
I love
man,
that.
every man has something like that they're not doing because of these rigid notions of manhood. And we pass that down to our boys. And we're not fulfilled. And we have anxiety and depression because we're not supposed to ask for help. And we don't talk about things. And we don't ask for help because it's a sign of weakness. So we don't go to the doctor. So we live 6 years less than women. We're at a much higher risk for all these other things. And the high risk is because men engage in high risk behaviors, because one of the ways you prove that you're a man is to engage in high risk behaviors. So vulnerability is something that we want men to embrace. Like that's strength, right? Compassion
Yeah,
is
it
strength.
really is. Being able to show vulnerability takes so much more strength than it does to
Mhm.
hide it. That's really courageous. And most women recognize that.
Mhm.
Ted, I'm so thrilled that you were here with us tonight, and you
Yeah.
took the time to really walk us through this in a way that I
Mhm.
think is really meaningful to folks. You're making such a difference out there, and thank you very much for being
Yes.
here with us
Thank
tonight.
you.
Thank you both so
Yeah,
much.
amazing. Thank you. What a great conversation.
Yeah, he's an amazing guy. The organization, A Call to Men, is just phenomenal. I have so much respect for the work that they do, and that was awesome that we got to spend the time that we did with him tonight. Um, I'm going to feel a little guilty about this, but just for a minute, because we're gonna shift gears. And when Ted said we go all in, yeah, we go all in. And
Yeah, we're about to go
one
in.
of the ways we're going in, yeah. So we have a new award that we are launching this evening, because we want to make sure that people get the recognition that they have really earned. So this award is called the Oh for Fuck's Sake Award, our OFFS award, and this is going to go weekly, or we'll see how often is necessary. But we want to make sure that we're really lifting up those folks who have tried so hard to make sure that they're getting attention, and by God, we're going to give it to them. So we have 3 nominees tonight. They are the stars of the Sedition Caucus. Our first nominee, Josh Hawley. Josh Hawley is nominated for gaslighting America by claiming he never questioned if Biden had won, and whining on social media, national television and radio, and an upcoming book that he's been silenced by the left. Never has anyone spent so much time in front of a camera complaining that he has no voice. So, Josh Hawley, you're our first nominee. Our second nominee, Kevin McCarthy. Kevin, having failed to successfully lie about his involvement in the attempted coup, decided that the correct strategy would be to not just deny he was involved, but to flip it around and claim that all Americans are responsible for the mob that stormed the Capitol. Apparently, Maya, you and I played a role in this thing. I'm not exactly sure how, but I'm sure Kevin McCarthy is going to tell us if we give him a chance, which we're not going to do. And our third and final nominee, I have a feeling this guy is going to be like evergreen as a nominee, Ted Cruz. As Rick Wilson said, you either hate him or you hate him. He is nominated for trying to out-Holly Josh Hawley in the category of being the absolutely most embarrassing Trump bootlicker. So there you have it. Those are our 3 nominees for this week.
And you can make your voices heard. So please head to Twitter. The poll is still open. It's at LPTV. And then we will announce the winner of the losers at the end of the show. So yes, please vote.
So it does the heart good.
Yeah. It really does. It really does. And, it's because of men like this that we need men like Ted Bunch, and that we need women like our next guest, who is in this environment that is not at all conducive to elevating women's voices. She's doing it. And is gone from the path of being, a victim to a survivor to an advocate for other women. And so I'm really excited to have her on the show. Last summer, as many of you know, the news of the assault and killing of 20-year-old female soldier at Fort Hood, Vanessa Guillen, it led to hundreds of women coming forward with stories of their own sexual harassment and assault within the military. With us now is Lucy Del Gaudio, a U.S. Army veteran leading a grassroots effort to demand an overhaul to how the military handles reporting and prosecution of sexual assault. Here's a clip of Lucy testifying this summer at a congressional hearing.
The culture of power and control creates and molds toxic leadership. This system is so static, it is gorilla glue to the floor of the basement. We can't even see the glass ceiling when it comes to the elimination of harassment and sexual assault in the military. If this is going to change, the DoD must take this issue seriously. Zero tolerance means zero tolerance.
Powerful, powerful. So very happy that you are here with us, Lucy. Honored that you're here.
Yeah, really
First of
thrilled.
all, yes. I really want to know about how you first got involved in the Justice for Vanessa Guillen movement. Can you share with us a little bit about that?
Sure. So thank you so much for inviting me to join tonight's show. It's an honor. So I got involved when the Vanessa Guillen case broke. I really tried to stay away from it. It was really triggering for me because of being, assault survivor, and I really tried to stay out of, looking at all the articles in the news and so on, that all that stuff. And then I got a phone call. I do like a monthly bi-monthly check-in with one of my friends who served with me. And he was like, Lucy, like, what's going on? How do you feel about it? I'm like, not listening to it. I really trying to stay away from it. And he said to me, every time I look at her picture, it reminds me of you. And then I took a deep dive and I said, I really need to learn more about this case. Then, the weekend before July 4th came in, they found her body, they identified her body. And then I received a phone call from a good friend who's an advocate as well. And she says, hey, a bunch of us are going to get on a Zoom call. We're going to do a check on each other. Would you like to join that call? And that call turned into this huge call of action of women veterans, getting together and starting the movement of the grassroots effort.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. That you were called to it, um, to service again, and so that's something that's really powerful, I think, for people to hear. Is that oftentimes we think of what it takes to be an activist, and it really takes, and sometimes somebody inviting you into the conversation. So I'm really, really grateful that you decided to answer that call. Very much so.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it's also an example of it. I think so many women, um, we silently hold a lot of the pain and experiences that we have, and it can be difficult to advocate for ourselves, but the ability to advocate for others can be very often what turns us into activists. And it was certainly the experience that I had, that I was silent until I knew someone who had harmed me had harmed someone else, and then that gave me a voice. And it was healing. Was this, and it's ongoing. So is this a healing experience for you as well?
Absolutely, because I finally have a voice. I finally have a way to have a mechanism to share my story. I hope that my experience saves a life, and it's tough work. It's very, very tough work. You have to go into places that you have hidden so long, and you have to, play with your demons, let's say, because they're so in there, and you have to wake them up and remember things, and you share your experiences that again are your experiences, because nobody's experience is alike. Everybody's is unique to them. And the healing process is also a different. Everybody's healing, everybody's way to heal is their way to heal. And that's something that's so important in this space, because I could tell you how I'm healing, but it might not work for you, it might not work for everybody else. So again, everybody's healing, everybody's journey is different, everybody's healing experience is different, and we just have to embrace each other. This is when practicing the empathetic ear, practicing empathy, practicing resiliency, practicing how to be just a compassionate human being. This is when it all
mhm.
comes to play.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And really, especially the part about we all have our own process of healing. I know sometimes we can be very judgmental of ourselves and others, for, oh, why didn't I report soon enough, or and things like that. And so the fact that you were able to come together with a community of women and be able to talk about that and understand that and reflect with each other. And so that is very powerful. And social media has been such a big piece of the work that you have done. Uh, can you talk a little bit about how you were able to connect and find community using social media?
So, I mean, the women's space has a very large social media following. There's a whole bunch of organizations that always get together and they share content, they share resources, they share the ability of doing all that. So, social media played a huge part. I mean, when the I am Vanessa Guillen hashtag started, that just went like wildfire. And that was a really great hashtag because it started finding, it found women's voices, but it also found people to say, we've had enough and we need to work and we need to start really addressing the issues that are facing us. So, again, that hashtag created by Karina, who is, again, one of a powerful voice in the space, when she decided to say, hey, I'm going to say hashtag I am Vanessa Guillen, everybody said, hey, we share some sort of experience similar to a Vanessa experience, and we are Vanessa Guillen, and we're going to give her that voice. And that hashtag was just a power player in this space.
Excellent.
It's so important for women to be able to find those voices and find solidarity with other women. A lot of women who I've talked to, one of the barriers that they felt to being able to use their voice is that there can be such a stigma about the type of woman that is who experiences assault or harassment. There's a lack of strength. And, if you're a strong, powerful, confident woman, those things don't happen to you. And it's a horrible fallacy. And it just layers harm on harm. That must be even more heightened in the military community.
Oh, absolutely. But, when you talk about it, it's just not a women's issue. Assault and harassment in the military does not discriminate. There's a multitude of men that report harassment and assault. The LGBTQ plus community has a large number of reporting. So it doesn't discriminate. So it targets everybody. And again, we can't stay in this pocket that we are meek or we are not strong. We are freaking strong. We're strong individuals. We just happen to be dealt that card. And now, when we have these voices and we're able to advocate and we're able to be activated, you really see us because trust me, I could be as pleasant as possible. And I'm talking to you in this conversation, but I'm from Jersey. I could really switch that saint of Paulie Walnuts on and I could show you what I really am. And that's what it is. We show how strong we are. We are going to speak our minds. We're going to tell you what happened, but we're also going to tell you how you need to address it, because that's something that the military, the DOD has not done. For years, it has gone that it's just neglected. It gets swept under the table. It's been going on for years. It's a narrative that keeps on playing and time again. And we have to address it. We have to be aggressive. The time is now. We have the Biden administration. We are going to get the justice that women, men, and all victims and survivors of sexual assault deserve.
Yeah, it does feel like we're in a new era now. And I love that your voice has strengthened. I can hear the power in your voice. And I know it must be very empowering for other women to hear that. So this is great. I want to hear a bit more about the healing process, that journey, because I know a lot of people are on different points of that journey. And I know you talk about a holistic approach to managing your PTSD. You talk very openly about it. And I love to lift weights. That's how I deal with my rage and my anger about things. I lift weights, I hop on the Peloton, and I figure out ways to process my rage and anger and turn it into something positive. And so I'd love to hear kind of about your process.
So my process, again, I became med-free. In April, I'm going to be 4 years without any type of PTSD med. So my methods to my healing are yoga, meditation, and running. Running really became one of my best cathartic moments in my life. And if you knew me prior to becoming holistic and saying the word Lucy and running together never went together. But running has really been a big part of, like, this morning I woke up and I said, I have a big day today. going to go out for my 3-miler, get it done. It clears my mind, clears my headspace. I get my day started. I kickstart that way. And it just makes me feel mentally more prepared for what's ahead of me. But I also drop what I brought my problems of yesterday. I drop them on my run and I go on. And that's what I do. And it really does help me so much. Also, cooking in the kitchen, that's like one of my methods that I just absolutely love. For me, it's like a passion when I'm in the kitchen. I just, unwind, cook something that I really love to cook. And journaling, that's another way that I really hit, my thoughts too. And I journal a lot.
I journal too. I journal. I have an AM and a PM, and sometimes in the middle of the day, where I focus on gratitude.
Yeah, I have. If you look at my, this is like my office because my kids kicked me out of the house. So I work in my front porch, and I have a multitude of different Frida Kahlo journals all around the house, and I jot everything down. If something comes up, I journal it down. If something happened that was traumatic to me, I write it down. If I'm feeling some sort of emotion, I write it down. It's journaling for me has been really, really a way to go.
Yeah,
it's really
self-care
powerful both in the
routine.
moment. Yeah. Journaling for me in the moment that I'm doing it, there's that process of getting it down on paper that does help me process it. But then being able to go back and read what you wrote and see the change that you've gone through, progress that you're making, or find times when you were feeling before like you're feeling again, and that how you got yourself back out of it, and that you do get back out of it. So I really appreciate you bringing that up. So I want to have a final question for you. President Biden has ordered a 90-day commission to pursue finally some solutions to sexual assault. It's a big milestone. How did you feel when you heard that was announced? And do you feel like we've got momentum in the right direction?
I totally feel we have momentum in the right direction. Secretary Austin has made the commitment to the DoD that they're going to start taking care of this and taking, really aggressive action. I'm hoping that Dennis McDonough gets as appointed to the Secretary of the VA, because I know he is also going to take this incredibly seriously. So I feel really hopeful. I really think that, again, our voices need to be heard. We cannot continue to be swept under the rug. This is a real issue. We cannot say that harassment and assault is it's an occupational hazard when you're in the military, and that shouldn't happen. I did not join the military to be assaulted. I joined the military to be a soldier, to be a patriot. That's what I joined the military for. And that's what a lot of us join the military for. We go to the military to create equity. We go to to create legacy, not to be assaulted, not to be harassment. And it needs to stop. And again, I'm incredibly, incredibly hopeful. I feel like this is going to be the year that we're going to get what we rightly deserve, and that's the release of toxic leadership in the military, establish just a working place that's safe and is equitable for women and men and all. The toxic leadership just needs to go.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's a breath of fresh air that we are finally moving in the right direction. We have a tweet that somebody sent us that I'd love to read to you. Says, I think there's a feeling of disempowerment people feel, in particular in our society. The individuals who have the loudest voices tend to be those who are part of an establishment. In my humble opinion, that's why people push down on others. What can be done to empower more people?
I think we just have to show people what we're made of. I think we have to be loud. We have to be proud. We have to be authentic. We have to be genuine. You need to see me. You need to see all of us. You need to hear us. You need to give us that platform. Like, let me get on my soapbox and tell you what this is all about. And we need more of that type of structure put in, because again, I'm not this person without this dynamic force of women around me that tell me, hey, Lucy, you have a strong voice. Go to it. Like as I'm speaking to you right now, they're on my phone. I see them saying, go get them, girl. Go get them, girl. Go get them, girl. We have to be more go get them and do your job. You know, I don't want to say do your job, but, you know, just do it. Because again, if we continue this momentum of empowerment, this, you know, again, I'm Latina, you know, we're fiery as it is. So, you know, everybody, I want you to find that fire inside of you, because that's what's going to get us to where we need to be and what we deserve.
Yes, you have clearly found your voice. And I think tonight you have given a lot of women the strength, and men, to really find their voice and step up. I am just absolutely ecstatic that we had the chance to chat with you tonight. I wish we could go longer
Yeah,
because I have so
me
much I want to
too.
talk to you about. Uh, so we'll have
And
to keep the conversation going on Twitter. Thank you so very much for being with us tonight, sharing with us.
Thank
We really
you.
appreciate it.
yeah,
Thank
thank
you. I
you so
really
much for
appreciate it.
everything you're doing.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Wow, uh, so powerful. I'm like ready
Yeah.
I'm ready to march. Like I just love that her
Yep.
story started with, you know, not being an activist, and now she's out here doing the work and getting other people to also do the work. So it's amazing. And speaking of every people doing the work, I want to hop into our Zoom. I think we have a caller, and so would love to chat. Let's see, who do we have? Hi, how are you? Welcome to We're Speaking. What is your
Hi,
name? Where are you calling from? Hi.
this is Lori from Los Angeles.
Hello, Lori in Los Angeles.
Welcome.
Thank you for all you do. You know, I am a lifelong Democrat. I came from a Democratic family, and you know, I was just so afraid that, like, you know, Donald Trump was going to win another 4 years, and I was just like, oh my God, we're like, we really don't know how to fight, do we? So, you know, I am also from New Jersey, so I wanted to just also just give a shout out to Lucy for her service and everything. I get it, you know, like you got to have your voice, and I think Thea wanted to put me on the air tonight because you guys are kind of wanted to hear stories about how you found, like, people found their voices.
Yes,
Yeah, and
please.
yes.
So I am the lead vocalist in a predominantly female Leonard Skinner tribute band, and I have kind of a very interesting view, say, into the MAGA world. I didn't plan on that, um, but it just kind of like around 2017, I started watching people online getting like radicalized and realizing that some of these people were coming to our shows, and it was like it was kind of scary to me, you know, and how they were like vilifying the other side, you know, without even like asking any questions. And it's just like every now and then I'll hate watch like Fox News just to see what they're watching. I'm just like, oh my God, I can't believe that these people are like, this is the information that they're being fed, you know. So I mean, I really never kind of engaged in politics before, but, you know, I really did feel that, like, once I started kind of keeping an eye and paying attention to people like Steve Schmidt and, you know, Michael Steele and Nicole Wallace, I felt like, wow, I've got like way more in common with them than, uh, you know, I do with, you know, the kind of like the Democratic Party and people, um, you know, who represent my district even. So names will be left out. But yeah.
So was there a moment where you felt like you could speak up, where you could
Yeah, so I
engage?
finally got to the point where I was just like, I just can't take it anymore. Like, I really need to say something. So, and even though like our page, on social media had been predominantly about um music, I was just like, wow, I really need to kind of let music do the talking, kind of like Jimmy Carter back in the 70s
Mhm.
did. And, and even then it was just kind of like, all right, I really have to come out and start saying things. And so finally it kind of like dawned on some of the fans that were like, wow, you're like, you're on the other side, and then it got kind of contentious and ugly when, it was like one guy who was kind of from the original Leonard Skinner group. He actually was in the plane crash, and uh he started doing, like, I wouldn't say it was a campaign, but he started telling people online, that I was a traitor and I was one of them. And I finally like really had to speak out. And I finally like, I got to the point where I was able to actually have conversations with these people, possibly not change their mind, but I think that the first step really needs to be that we all need to kind of come together
Mhm.
and at least be able to live with each other on this planet, because we're so divided right now. You know, it's really
Yeah.
bad. It's really kind of turned me off to, even
Yeah.
like playing music or, doing like playing in front of people, because whereas before it never really mattered. Nobody even talked about politics, but all of a sudden it became
It
the thing
thing.
and you were
Yes,
Mhm.
that's
defined by
exactly
it.
it. And I think, thank you so much for saying that about conversation, because that is exactly it. We do need to have a conversation. So thank you for calling in and joining us as a part of the conversation. We appreciate you connecting.
Yeah, thank
Thanks,
you
I
very much.
appreciate you.
All right. So uh,
Yeah,
this has
we're not
been,
very good at talking with one another anymore. I hope we get back to a place where we're capable of doing that again. But there's some accountability that is necessary before we
yes,
just move forward. And
yes,
we're not seeing accountability. We're seeing a lot of let's just all forget about that business that
yeah,
happened those last 4 years, and with the
yeah,
whole storming the castle thing.
yeah.
Um,
They're like sweep it under
and
the rug. They want to break out that little thing from Men in Black and like zap everybody, and everyone's like, "What? Huh?"
yeah, the zappy pen. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
not going to
no,
happen.
no,
We're going to make sure that doesn't happen. The Lincoln Project's going to make sure that doesn't happen. There's going to
yeah,
be a lot of accountability. That is, a piece of why our new award, the OFFS Award, is so important. So we are going to go ahead and announce our winners. We had, three really deserving nominees, and I want them all to know that just being nominated is truly a dishonor. So I don't want them to feel badly that they didn't win out of the losers. We had Senator John Hawley, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, and Senator Rafael Edward Cruz, known to his friends as Ted. That's actually a joke because Ted Cruz does not have any friends, but he does have our inaugural OFFS Award, which he can add it to his title of being the most despised member of the Senate. So congratulations, Ted Cruz. You truly are the winner of being a seditious, odious loser. So, congrats or something.
yeah. Congrats, exactly right. Congrats or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
we all
I
have
just
to.
This isn't the last
We
time
have
we're
to-
going to see Ted Cruz on this list.
Unfortunately not. Yeah, like it might just be the Ted Cruz Award. We should probably call it that and then start nominating everybody. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So tonight's been great. We've seen ways of getting involved. And I really am we're inviting all of you to get involved, to be the change. For me, I'm inspired by the Book of Dares. So I encourage you to be like Ted Bunch and dare to think differently about gender, right? Like, this is something that is going to affect all of us, right? This isn't just about women. This is about humanity. And also be like Lucy Del Gaudio and dare to use social media for good. Sometimes we're doom scrolling, but we can be on there connecting, building community, sharing our voices. And so, yes, I dare you. I double dare you.
I double dog dare you.
There it is.
And so keep an eye out for our nominees for next week's show for the second award that we'll be giving out. And also join the Lincoln Project again tomorrow at 9 p.m. for the breakdown with Tara Setmayer and Rick Wilson. Their guests tomorrow are Susan Page of USA Today and Norm Orstein of the American Enterprise Institute. And they're going to be talking about Biden's relationship with Congress, the upcoming impeachment trial, and the first 100 days of the Biden administration. Yeah,
that's going to be a good watch. And we will be back next Wednesday, February 3rd. Can't believe it's February already. We have made it through January almost. 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on LPTV. Hashtag us in the meantime. We're speaking. You can leave us a voicemail. You can text us. Other than that, though, we'll see you. We'll see you next week. And that's it.
We will see you next week. We're going to leave you with a little love letter from the Lincoln Project to one of our nominees tonight, Josh Hawley. So enjoy this, and we will see you next Wednesday.
Josh Hawley will be one of the greatest champions.
Are you trying to say that as of January 20th, that President Trump will be president?
Well, that depends on what happens on Wednesday.
And the Kansas City Star writes plainly that he has, quote, blood on his hands.
Let's have trial by combat.
Jack Danforth called Hawley's objector movement a highly destructive attack on our constitutional government. It's the opposite of conservative. It's radical.